Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You hear me? Everything okay? Good. So my name is Antoine Baronnet. I am the Deputy Secretary General of the Geneva Association. I'm also the head of Insight. It means I'm the head of the research of the association. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Botero for this invitation. It was a privilege for me to come here. I want also to thank the organization and the people from Fasecolda who do a great job. This is a fantastic organization, a fantastic meeting. So let me tell you now who we are, what we do, how we work. It's important to understand the Geneva Association, to understand our work. The Geneva Association basically is an association made of 80 CEOs of top insurance companies. These are not the companies which are members, these are the CEOs. Out of these 80 CEOs, 20 are our board. This board decides which research we do, what are the topics we will cover in the next years, and basically gives us the power to present what important is in the market. I give you an example. I will present today harnessing technology to narrow insurance protection gaps. This is the last year presentation. My focus this year, clearly, is cyber insurance, cyber risk. This is the coming topic. There will be publication end of year. It will be available on our website, and I invite you to have a look. On your table, you will find the kind of publication we bring. The publications are not only for our members, it's in the public domain. Our research is important for the insurance market in general. Anyway, our focus is always insurance, but also how it relates with other partners like the World Bank, the OECD. So we are not working in a isolated environment. We really try to make insurance at the right place. Why is it important? Why are we absolutely societal? And I'm coming to this now with harnessing technology to narrow insurance gaps. Insurance gaps can be covered with insurance or without, and we will come to this in a minute. But what's important, and the studies made by the World Bank are very clear about it. When a disaster occurs somewhere, let's say now with a hurricane, it's very different if it is insured or not insured, even if the financial outcome is the same. What we know now is if it was correctly insured, the time to recover, to be back at the same situation is much, much, much quicker. So we as an insurer, we have a big role to play, and it is absolutely clear that we must continue our efforts. So now to the presentation itself, the agenda. First of all, it is about definitions. What is an insurance gap? It may sound obvious, but we have to be clear about it. It is a technical definition, and there are limits to it. The second point will be the causes. Why so much gaps, and what can we do about it? Number three will be, with technology, there is certainly an impact. There will be a change in the future that we will analyze. And that was exactly the reason of this study. The insurance was a bit also anxious. What will be the future with all these technology events? Will it be positive? Will it be dangerous? Exactly what we want to know. The regulatory dimension is, of course, evidently important. Why? There is so much data available. So the regulator has to make a kind of balance act. What is available to use as an insurer, and what needs to be protected for the private individual. Next will be a couple of success stories, because there are at the moment some stories going on which clearly show that technology will change a lot in our business. And I hope in Colombia you have also a lot of initiatives, because this will probably be the difference at the end of the day. We made some interviews with a lot of involved companies. We got some feedback, what's important, what less. You will see, quite interesting. And we can take some lessons out of this. We will conclude, of course, with elements you can take. They are probably true everywhere we are. In all businesses, in insurance, we do. Right, definitions. The easiest way to approach insurance gaps, of course, is uninsured losses as a share of total loss. That seems to be evident, but it's not complete. Uninsured people as a share of the total population makes also sense. Actual insurance penetration against benchmark is also useful, but what benchmark? It can make things a bit complicated. Probably the most interesting definition is insurance actually purchased against economically beneficial coverage. What is economically beneficial coverage? We know technically it's a nonsense to insure everything and completely. That would create a bubble. At the end of the day, you would have additional costs, which are the running costs of the insurance, on top of everything. That would be not a good one. So for the study, we use more this definition, which is clearly complete. Now the property insurance protection gap by disasters. And that is maybe also interesting. Protection gap on a longer period, 75 to 2014, by not countries, but by of course, continents. And we have a distinction between storms, floods, earthquake. Surprising results. For example, in Western Europe, we were expecting to have a small protection gap. About earthquake, the disaster in Italy proved the opposite. It was not insured at all. More than 90% protection gap. Compare Latin America with Asia. We call it emerging Asia. Of course, there is now a piece of Asia which is quite developed. It works then more like Western Europe. But basically, in Latin America, there is a much better coverage than we could expect. Of course, the most sophisticated insurance market is North America. You have quite a good or a small protection gap. The reason why, probably education plays a big role here. So what we learn here is protection gap in emerging Asia, 90% of all, and earthquake, for different reasons, is uninsured in all continents. Now let's go to human insurance, health insurance, in 2014. This is a bit more complicated to explain, because what's relevant is also, yes, the social security, what kind of obligatory, mandatory insurance you have, and the protection gap at the end will be defined by private out-of-pocket expenditure. And if I look there, it's a bit everywhere. So what strikes me more is if you look at Mexico. I'm not sure if this is a good comparison, no? But the private insurance plays no role, or a very small role. Why? So clearly here we see that the insurance industry doesn't play completely the role it should. The causes. There are evidently economic reasons. The more the countries develop, the more there is available to buy insurance. But this is only one reason, and what we see before, it's not true anymore with China and some other countries. There is limits to insurability, of course. That is nothing new. There is a low risk awareness. That has to do with education. Clearly, what we see sometimes is people even don't know that it's possible to insure. So, of course, the protection gaps is even bigger. That is now a big piece, and the big discussion can be taking place about affordability. We think, clearly, price has a major role to play. We believe, and clearly there are models which demonstrate this, if the price of insurance goes down, you have more coverage. People start to think, well, for such a price, I'm okay to cover myself or my goods. Evidently, the perception of insurance products by potential customers or customers is also very important. And immature regulations. Well, we will come back also after about regulation, but it plays a big role. Sometimes we could do a much better job in insurance if the regulator would support, but sometimes it's quite blocking. Well, now we take some examples of all what we have now defined. Lack of comprehensibility and responsiveness. That's quite evidently not surprising, I would say. The red line shows what people believe is important to get, and the yellow line shows the satisfaction of customers, and there's a gap, a big one. So it's a bit better on the right side, makes you feel you are not anonymous. Great, but there is still a 10% gap. On the left hand, provides clear and easy to understand information on policies. This is quite dramatic. And this will not help to fill the gap, the protection gap, which should be our goal. So maybe, should I read them all or not? Because of the translation, I can do it, or you prefer to read. It's okay? Good. But let's take this. We, insurers and reinsurers, we have a lot to do to help about it. This just creates better conditions to fill the gap. Now the backbone of the presentation is, of course, how digital technology can make a difference. I say can because it depends the way we make it. Mitigating moral hazard. That needs also a definition. Moral hazard is the misbehavior of insured people because they know they are insured. Typically, let's take an example. Because I'm insured with my car, I start to drive badly. just because I know it will be repaired, it will be free, etc. So mitigating moral hazard. Big data, what we call big data, is all what you can find on the internet on people, elements, everything. This big data, if we use it for pricing, that can also help to change behavior. So it makes a lot of sense. Big data creates new market for insurable risks. Well, I think I need to give you an example of typically what we could do and what we couldn't. Let's imagine somebody wants to insure his house for price depreciation. Sounds new. So I have a house, and for a special reason, I need to be sure the price doesn't go down. Normally speaking, you can't insure this kind of things in the old world. In this case, we know some insurers and reinsurers thinking about the following. With the big data, you can have a clear picture of maybe the 20 houses around this one, and to have a pricing or price index, how it will evaluate. And therefore, instead of giving the guy a policy to insure the price depreciation, I will give him a policy where, on contrary, he will be matched against the neighbors, so to say. And this is interesting, because he will be motivated, of course, to make a lot about his house, to avoid the contrary effect. Reducing information asymmetries. I believe all insurers know what information asymmetries are, and this is a clear point. I mean, today, customers and potential customers, they know so much more than before. So if they want to know, are you expensive or not, they just go on the internet and make a comparison. So the asymmetry is not the one it was. There is really something positive about it. From the insurance side, the digital source will also help, of course, to make a much better differentiation between good and poor risk. So theoretically speaking, we are able to make a better job. Cutting transaction costs. Again, I said closing the protection gap needs to reduce costs to make it more affordable. I will come back. We will go into detail in this, but it's evident with a better digital use, we will come exactly to this solution. So, reducing transaction costs. We take here the example China. Why China? It's a really dynamic market, and there was less of a legacy. It means some insurance could start from scratch, and they used mostly the channel of digital sale. And look at the figures. The complete transaction costs, including the sales costs, are limited at 38%. So that clearly, in taking this example, we can see digital can make the difference. And now let's go into details. And we had to make a lot of comparison and analysis about it. The combined ratio 99 on the left hand, it's a classical insurance. Claim expense 67, non-claim expenses 32, nothing special. We call it a baseline insurer. Now with digital, what can be made? We can gain 4 to 5% on automating processes. No surprise. The digital sale, we don't say here you should do only digital sale, will be the wrong. And by the way, when we say digital sale, it can be digital supported sales with agents. It's also an evolution possible. We can gain here 6 to 7%. And big data, pricing and fraud detection, even 6 to 10%. But bon, we will come also to this after why the bracket 6 to 10. It's about what is allowed, what will be allowed to do in terms especially of fraud detection. Because of course, using big data to detect fraud needs to go into a lot of private elements, right? So we will come in the near future, it's not tomorrow, to the new digital insurer will be somewhere like 78 to 82%. And this gain, we believe, will be transposed into the reduction of the protection gap. Okay? Bon, as we said, major cost savings, admin, acquisition, underwriting, and claims. So everything of your insurance is touched. This is also a nice one. Interaction through digital. No surprise, the insurer is the less active on the market. Evidently, the search engine, what Google, etc., they are permanently online with the customer. No discussion about it. But I invite you to compare banks and insurance. Why are insurance less connected to their customers than banks? There is a lesson to learn here. And with more connectivity, you create a lot of positive effects, retention, you can sell other products, etc., etc. So we think clearly there is a challenge, but there is a unique opportunity for insurance to step into the digital age and to compensate the former, I would say, gaps. So this one is maybe complicated, but let's make it simple. On top, I have the classical physical value chain of insurance, starting from product design, underwriting, marketing, distribution, policy claims management. Nothing special. And now we want to go down to the virtual value chain and all what can be done. So let's start with product design. We could do more on-demand insurance. That will be a topic one of these days, on-demand. And I will show you some examples. Robotics, telematics, IoT, that will have an effect. We will also have an example where some health insurers use some device of the customer, blood pressure, etc., permanent. So they can control the way of living of the customer and to make the right pricing out of that. So that has an impact, evident. New emerging risks, such as cyber. So digital has also some bad side of the coin. There will be more and more danger and hazards through cyber, but it's also a product. So it's quite new. And again, we will have a publication this year about the subject. Social network insurance groups. Interestingly, we have an example again about this. It is about customers can organize themselves, not to be an insurer, that would be not right, but to organize themselves to be a pool of potential customers. That also changed the world. Sometimes customers and potential customers are more advanced in digital than the insurance companies. Now about pricing, we already touched the subject. Use of big data will make the difference. Evidently, you can know much more about someone, like through social networks, the way of living, etc. If allowed to use. Again, we will come after to the problematic of regulatory. Predictive prescriptive underwriting techniques, yeah, that is of course high potential at the beginning, at the moment. Artificial intelligence, that is a subject in itself, and we will also have some publication about the subject. And I will show you an example of that. Marketing, probably the element that we know most. What can we do with digital on marketing? It's quite limited. Micro market segmentation is a good example, I would say. In the past, we had to guess sometimes what can interest some customers, but now we can be so targeting that the probability of success is much higher. Distribution, as we said, there will be less face-to-face engagement, but I will not say that is the end of intermediation by far. What we say is, insurance companies and intermediaries should use digital, should make the progress in digital, and that will make the difference. Policy claims management, evidently, again, if we cross-check informations, big data with our statistics, the possibilities of detecting frauds is enormous. It is more and more used, if allowed, because we touch here private stuff. So digital, as such, is touching the three elements of the insurance, which is awareness, affordability, appeal. So that is basically the new visibility of the story. We were of the impression digital is only this, only that. No, it's everywhere. Awareness, information gathering evident. Appeal, that as we said, bringing the right products which interest the customer makes the difference. Affordability, explained, yeah. The regulatory dimension. The regulator will have to perform a balancing act, evidently. On the one hand, digital will help to reduce the protection gap. On the other hand, evidently, a lot of things will happen, like the possibility to use private data on a big scale. So that has to be seen. Then something on top will be the emergence of new players on the market which are not insurers. That can be a problem. So coming to this, we have two potential players. We have this so-called insurtechs, and we have the so-called big techs. So insurtechs are smaller companies which are using or trying to find niche or new markets, new ways of selling. We see this as very positive. We believe the insurtechs are here to support the insurance industry. And to a certain extent, more than 80% of these insurtechs are financed by the insurance industry. So that makes a lot of sense. Where it's more complicated. But nevertheless, the regulator has to have a look what it is, how it works, etc. I'll give you an example. In England, there is a special area where insurtechs can do their tests, their everything what they want to do without the risk of touching the customer. So it's half controlled, and the regulatory takes care that nothing totally wrong can happen. Other players will be the big techs. That is the Google, Amazon, etc. So if we go to that logic, what will happen is these guys, they have so much data and they have money. So what's the next step? Could be to be an insurer. So that is something the regulatory has to watch carefully. Means reconciling data protection and data usage. Data protection means everybody has to be protected, that nobody does something wrong with your data. On the other hand, filling the protection gap needs some usage, new kind of usage. Is the idea to make something anonymous? So we have to work on that. Determining the scope for price differentiation. Sounds simple, but it's very sophisticated. What it means here is you can, with big data, be so precise on pricing that at the end of the day, you create a classification of people which you can't insure. Because if I take only the good risks, what do we do with the others? Today, let's take a health insurance or life insurance. The two parameters are age, gender, more or less, that's it. Imagine we can, okay. But imagine now we can make it so very precise, age, sports, hobbies, etc. So if we are too precise on this, what will happen is the regulator will have people which are not possible to insure. So there must be a balance act. Insurance has also something to do with welfare, not only with pricing some people. Voilà, as I said, supervising non-insurers engaged in risk, underwriting, and distribution. Well, that's the role. I mean, digital doesn't mean complete anarchy. I mean, clearly, that has to be controlled, that has to be... Well, some countries, like Mexico, are very strict. They forbid everything. This is not also the right thing to do. Some countries are very lax, and one can ask, where is privacy? So I don't know the situation in Colombia, but it is certainly your organization should take care of that, really. What do you want to do? You want to stop the market, or you want to go and progress the market? Voilà. Some now examples. Real ones, of course. Airtel Ghana, the subject here is to enter really under exploited countries, exploited in terms of insurance. We are speaking about regions where there is nothing. Interestingly, the only penetration we know is mobile phones. So what they do here is to give as a gift. So the customer has the impression not to pay for that. With the repayment of the mobile, he gets an accident insurance for free. The good thing is it works. There is a lot on education. What we know is most of the time it's people getting this insurance. It's the first time they get contact with insurance at all. So, and this maybe is just the beginning then to sell something else. So this is a really good initiative. It's working fine. And bon, just also for you to know, then the claims handling, etc., all is about the phone. What was here absolutely vital is the regulator accepts mobile money as a payment. Because otherwise, if there is a claim settlement, it will be paid as a kind of credit on the mobile. It's not real money, if you want. Good. Bima is a similar experience with one big difference. They use the call center of the mobile company to make marketing on insurance. That's the difference. So it's not a gift, it's they call the customer, say, hey, do you want this, do you want that? If you want, you get a deduction of your credit directly on your mobile. Difficulty then is the amount has to be small. Why? Otherwise you need paperwork. That is very, of course, limited in this case. Good. Discovery. This is a South African story. They are very far away in terms of IoT. So people are really giving their life to the insurer. And what they eat, what they don't eat, what they drink and not drink, etc. And at the end of the day, they have a super price. Okay, but you have to accept everything. So, interesting initiative, but would be surprising if we can copy this in other countries. Friend Insurance, this is a German one. This is the opposite story. These are customers on Facebook. They put themselves together. They use the connectivity of the Facebook to find others which are interested in doing the same. And they come to the insurance and saying, hey, we are 1,000 people, we want this. What do we get? And this is working. We call it P2P. I would say, yeah, it's a way of powerful customer experience which can lead to the price change. More on the group area, the one in Eastern Africa, Kilimo, this is about when you buy seeds, you get a kind of insurance which is attached to the seeds you have acquired. And automatically, when you basically buy so much maize and you have the insurance for that, automatically with satellites, which are used for meteorological purpose, there will be a live analysis of the situation, and if they know the entire crop was destroyed, they will automatically, without any paperwork, be reimbursed. That's interesting. In Pacifica, France, we have the same story, with a difference. It's a lack of pasture, what we are here insuring, and this is, by the way, not insured at all, normally speaking. So they found not only the product, but also the way to settle claims. They have created a kind of index, which is a kind of reference for all the claims after. So let's come back to the BIMA story, mobile operator, insurance provider working together, promoting the story. Important, the premiums are mobile money. That is a regulatory story. And this gives me the opportunity to say, in most countries where micro-insurance, we call this micro-insurance. It's not negative. It's just only, these are small amounts most of the time. But everything is important. What we see from the regulatory mostly is a distinction. The law for insurance for classic and the law for insurance for micro-insurance. It's very hard to make one regulatory which accepts either or. So doing micro-insurance is sometimes a good initiative to make it separate, having their own rules. This helps speeding up the sales. Voilà, we did then interview a lot of companies, and with the same subjects, of course. And this is what's coming out. Voila. The first weakness insurance companies from themselves say they have is a lack of client centricity and knowledge. No surprise. Touch personal lines. Where we can do the progress is mostly on distribution. The second one is clearly high cost of distribution. That's what the insurance says. They can do progress on that, and digital will help. Digital will help. That is the story. Lack of product simplicity and transparency, kind of the same, we said. We should, of course, have internet sites which support all this to make it happen. So we took 3 elements of 3 interviews. Should I read or you read? It's okay. The big thing is also there is now a positive mood around digital. Yes, digital will help. It's not just a threat. Wow, we should take care to take the. No. We have a real societal function as an insurer. We should get clear about that. And digital is our help. So, very important. That's about underwriting. MIT, okay. That's the CEO of BIMA, so it makes sense what he says. But he's right. I don't know the situation in Colombia, but if you look at the African continent, it's incredible. We're touching here tens of millions, new customers. Voila, so we come slowly but surely to the end. What I suggest you to remember, technology helps. That's number 1. The second thing is cost reduction is not just an exercise, it's about closing or reducing the protection gap. The number 3 I like. So, as we explained before, clearly, there is a unique opportunity for insurance to become more customer-centric, more visible, more proactive. Yes, that's now. It would be a disaster. Let's take other words. It would be a pity if the digital makes a kind of revolution where new actors from scratch would take the market. The opportunity is there, and we believe insurance could take it. So what we have shown are small examples. They do not represent, of course, today the big piece of the market, but they are encouraging. This, which started a couple of years ago, is already bringing some new business and going in the right direction. Mobile micro-insurance, the 2 examples we had, behavioral insurance. Here we believe we get new kind of customers in the insurance. People who are, normally speaking, not interested. Due to behavioral insurance, there will be new customers. P2P insurance, as I explained, same. Parametric insurance, the new way of doing underwriting pricing. Yeah. Voila. I was expecting a bit more time to open questions, but has someone a question? No? Good. Thank you.